Welcome back into the studio. I've got a super cute little duckling with all of those little tiny water droplets on it to bring to you this time, and we're going to be dealing with more wiry feathers on the back, that shiny beak, the super soft feathers and fluffy feathers on the head, and then those wet feathers under the neck also. So lots to get on with, lots to discover in this demonstration. Hope you enjoy it. The image you just saw, that was my final drawing. So this is the reference photo, and I got my line art by the side of it, and it's on the pale blue pastel matte paper this time. Thought I'd do something a little bit different with the colors in case you've got different sets yourself. Now on screen, that pale blue paper looks a bit more washed out than it does in real life. That's because I've increased the brightness so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay, so if you get that in real life, just be a little bit darker, but it's not really a very blue paper at all. It's more of a dirty look to it. That means because it's not white, we can see the highlights quite clearly when they go on. Okay, so that helps us along. I'm putting some of this blue around the beak, because I'm going to concentrate on the beak straight away because of two things. Number one, it'll allow me to soften that edge, but number two, more importantly, it'll allow me to see all the colors actually in the scene that we see in the reference photo. So I've just used a pastel stick to put that on there. That was a Faber-Castell stick. That was the closest match I got to the color, and I've just rubbed it in, or kind of bedded it in with my finger, a clean finger. Okay, when you're doing backgrounds like that, clean fingers, because if you muddy them, it's very difficult to get a pure color back. And that's also the reason why I'm not doing all of the background in blue at this stage. I don't want the chance of dirtying that background very easily. Okay, so people to ask, do I do the background first and the foreground? That's the reason. If it's a flat color like this one is, I really save the background till for as long as I can, till last if possible. But sometimes, or very often, you'll see me put a little bit of background in like this, as I said, just to judge those colors more easily. Now these lighter colored pastel matte papers, they don't seem to be or to have as much texture to them as the darker papers. Okay, so you won't see me actually blending as much with paper stumps. I'll be doing a lot more blending with fingers. You see me use the stumps if I'm doing small areas I can't get my fingers into. But other than that, you won't see me doing a lot of stump blending or pushing that color in so much, because it's not required. As I said, these papers are a little bit less textured than the darker papers. But even so, you'll still see I managed to get lots and lots of layers on here. You see, I'm being careful not to smudge into that blue. I'm keeping my hand from that blue. And just basically working out the colors and the tones that I need. Now before this, I've already picked out of my selection of colors the ones I think I require. And there's probably 30 or so colors, and you'll see me pick them up and put them down all the way through it. This is not one of those demos for me to list a color and say put it in this place and put it in that place. I've done a few of those for absolute beginners now. I don't like teaching that way. I'm teaching the technique, and I've also got a video out as well that's on Patreon. It's on YouTube, or it's on Patreon at least for sure. I don't think it is actually on YouTube, that shows the easiest way to select your pencil colors. Okay, so if you haven't seen that, you can go and watch that one. And it shows me using little bits of paper with holes cut out and then matching up pencil colors. Okay, so that's a really useful way of finding your colors. You don't want to just wing it, which is a good term for this drawing, and guess the colors at the beginning. You want them, you know, fairly accurate. Now I've started with the beak for one simple reason. It's what attracted me to it. I love the wetness that's in there, that smooth feel, which contrasts then with all that fluffiness of the duck. So I basically just started with the beak because that's the thing I wanted to start with. Okay, so don't worry about rules of starting top left working to bottom right. In many of my videos you'll see me start with the eyes because I want to do something that's really interesting to do, but also quite dramatic to see when it's finished. And I thought when the beak was done it would look quite dramatic and look nice in a step-by-step photo. So I put a bit of purple on first, and now you can see I'm using my pencil on the side just to float a bit of that blue on top of it. Now the colours don't need to be exactly right. Remember what I say in most of my videos, the tonal value, the lightness and the darkness, that's the thing that really counts. Now I put that blue on top of the purple I'd already had on there because, as you would expect, when there's millions of colours in nature, no matter how many pencils you've got, you're never going to have the exact colour, and the colours change, the shades change as well, so that's why we put one colour on top of another. So you try to match it as much as you can, and then you adjust it almost like glazing by putting the other colour with it. Now this drawing took me around about 3.5 hours to complete, which is quite fast for something that turns out to be that detailed. So you see how I just looked at my pencil then? You could rub your pencil then on a piece of the similar or the same colour pastel matte paper, offer it up to the reference photo. You can see how close I've got the reference as well, that all helps. And try and match as close as you can the colour and especially the tonal value to the area you're trying to recreate. So that's how you start off. We'll have a lot more refinement on top of this. If you squint your eyes at the screen, you see the reference is still darker on the beak, on that top part anyway, the more blue purple colour, so I can tell already I need to go darker there, but we need to start somewhere. And when all you've got at the beginning is a blank sheet of paper, even though it being slightly toned paper will help, we still need to start somewhere so we can refine on top. So don't expect it to be perfect straight away. And now I'm floating a bit of a dark grey in here. And you can see it's not very grainy, this paper. So that's helping with this smooth effect. Just putting that around here as well. I can tell needs to go darker, needs to go bluer, but let's try and get as many of these colours, these hints of colours we can see in there. Now I'm just using my finger gently to blend all that together. And then I'll wipe my finger on some microfiber cloth so that I know it's clean. The finger will still look quite dirty, but it won't contaminate any other areas. Here I'm just using a soft paper stump, and that's blending it that bit more because I want this area to be completely without a grainy appearance at all, so that we can recreate then that smooth, shiny, hard looking beak. In the feather areas, any grain or texture of the paper, you can see that'll make no difference at all, but in the beak we want it to be perfectly smooth. So now I need to start to refine it, add more colours that I see, more accurate colours, but more importantly the tonal value, the darks. I need to get a lot of this now darker, and we're quite dark around this edge, so that's a dark grey going in. And then it goes quite dark up here as well. I'm not pushing hard with the pencils, see, just blend a bit more, still keeping that smooth appearance. Now on the end here we got a bit of a warmer colour. You can see on my reference it's a bit more muted, but I can keep adjusting it because pastel matte will take so many layers. I can keep adjusting, refining. And don't forget, as the artist, we don't need to do an exact copy. If the duckling was under a sun morning, a sunrise, it would look a different colour. It'd all be tinted with warmer, richer hues. If it was the middle of the day with a blue sky, it'd be a cooler look to it, and then at sunset we'd have that richness again. So that's why colours are not absolutely required to be exactly the same, but the tonal range, the lightness and darkness, that's what gives us the shape and the form, that three-dimensional look. So a little bit darker here under the beak, and that separates the two beaks as well. You see I just blended it a little bit, one stroke, one direction, so it didn't contaminate that blue. With my technique, it's more like creeping up on the realism. We build that map underneath, just get more and more accurate, squinting if you're prone to copying the details too much at this early stage. I'm squinting and I'm seeing that I need to go darker up here and quite dark here at the top as well. And then I can blend it again. I'm getting closer. I can still see I need to go even darker up here, but it's getting closer to what I want all the time. I'm not expecting to get it exactly right in one layer. Now I'm using a sharp black pencil, putting in this dark area here. That will allow me then to judge again how much darker I need that top section of the beak to be, and the colours that are in there. And I'll go a bit darker under here as well. Now putting in some of the feathers, that's going to help me once again to judge that beak. Everything, when things are around other areas, it all helps to actually, you know, assess the other areas more easily. I'm just going to block in just a little bit of this. Okay, so now I'm coming back in, getting more accurate again with the beak. I can see I need to go a bit warmer down here. The highlights can easily come on top of this. Nothing is really pure white, so I know that those highlight colors will float on top. If I had a largish area that was needed to be pure white, I'd draw around that so that I could keep the purity of the color. Now I'm using the black very gently because I don't have a purple, that colour, that's that dark. So you see how you've got a kind of glaze colours on top of each other, but you can see when you squint it's getting closer now, closer to the darkness, and then I can start to adjust with lighter colours, just lightly going on top. Now as these lighter blues are going on top, that's what's giving that appearance now of glossiness, of wetness, shininess. Because remember, we're working on a flat surface. As the artist, our job when you're doing realism is to create the appearance of 3 dimensions on that flat paper. All we're really doing is putting one colour next to another, one tonal value next to another. It's the eyes and the brain that's making it look like the object. So that's why it really doesn't matter if you're drawing or painting a cup, a glass, an animal, a human. We're still doing the same principles as I show in my videos of putting that one colour and getting more accurate all the time. And now as I start to put the highlights on, that's the icing on the cake. Things will start to look more realistic now quite quickly. So this is the details beginning to go on top. Now gradually going lighter of the highlights on the beak, working from dark really to light. So now I'm gradually going lighter and lighter with the pencils. You can see I'm using a very, very light stroke. I don't want big thick hard edges here, I just want that slightly lighter appearance with the lights catching onto that side of the beak. Putting a bit more of that subtle brown in there. Warming it up a bit. I'd gone a little bit too dark, so that's where I've gone for more of a flesh colour pencil. Putting that on top, so you can see I assess that again. Too many artists do demonstrations and all they're doing is giving pencil numbers all the time, rather than the thought process and for you to be able to see when adjustments are being made and why they're being made. So I'm going over there, just lightening it a bit, just colouring it a little bit more, waiting until I need to go lighter as I'm doing now. So as I'm going lighter, that's when, once again, as I said, that shiny hard surface will start to appear much more real. Now I'm using, that's a pure white pencil, Carbothello pastel pencil, just to put on those little bits of highlight, those finishing touches. I may come back to do just a little bit more on the beak here and there, but that's it, 99% done. Now I'm just tidying up the edges a bit. You can see how easy it is to actually dirty that background. So once again, that's why I haven't put much of it in at all, but really why I needed to get at least some of it in, as you can see, to get the nice soft edges and that colour of the beak in relation to the background. And now just a few more touches just to pretty much complete that beak, and that then gives me a really great starting point now to assess everything else by, and to work from this part that I've done all that realism with, and that inspires me then to, you know, keep that realism as I'm doing the rest of the duckling as well. Just wanted to quickly mention my Patreon channel for those looking for even more in-depth art instruction. It's packed full of pastel videos, oil videos as well, and those videos are being added to new ones every single month. I have videos for the complete beginner that have never done pastels or oils before with just limited supplies, and I take you from the very first blocking in all the way through to the final detailed drawings and paintings. I've also got some really unusual subjects as well, and in all of my videos I always take you through all the details. You see everything I do, how I create my work. But it's not just for beginners, it's also for novices, and I also show the best artwork that I've ever done as well. And this particular elephant video spans 6 hours, so you know you're going to see tons and tons of details, tips and techniques. And as mentioned, I've got lots of oil videos on there too, so there really is something for everybody, and you get access to hundreds of hours worth of videos for just $4. Now over 1,000 members strong. Hope to see you there soon.